Mine said Microsoft. Test.
Testing.
Test.
Testing.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Nothing. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. Testing 1, 2, 3. 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 Testing 1, 2, 3.
It just said
Yeah. Testing
microphone
1, 2, 3.
muted.
It says, Deanne, in the bottom left-hand corner, there's a mute button too, the little red.
Testing.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Testing. Did that work?
No, it did not.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Did not. Testing 1, 2, 3.
There.
Thank you.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Yep, thank you. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence to honor the memories of Cactus View staff member Megan Bazana, Pinnacle High School staff member Amanda Fagan, and North Canyon High School student Samuel Farias. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. May I have roll call, please?
Mrs. Baker,
Here.
Mrs. Greenberg,
Here.
Mrs. Christensen,
Here.
Mrs. Case,
Here.
Mr. Pantera.
Here.
Next on the agenda is approval of agenda. Dr. Bells.
Thank you, President Case, Governing Board members, Captain, and guests. Items approved by consent will not come up for discussion during the meeting, but will be approved when the agenda is adopted. This is possible since members of the Governing Board receive the agenda along with backup materials at least 24 hours prior to the meeting and have had time to review and consider all items. Prior to the agenda being adopted, members of the Governing Board may ask that an item be removed from the consent agenda and brought to the floor for discussion at the appropriate place on the agenda. Any member of the audience who submitted a blue public comment card prior to the start of the meeting will be recognized to speak on that agenda item under items for approval. I'd like to offer the agenda as posted.
May I have a, to
So
move
moved.
this? Thank
I
you.
move that we approve the agenda.
A move to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Any absentees? Thank you. I meant to say, does any member of the governing board wish to have removed an item from the thing? I'm sorry. No? And we have 12 blue public comment cards tonight, and each speaker will have 3 minutes to remark on a specific agenda items. And those individuals we recognize to speak under items for approval. As a reminder, we ask that you speak. Please direct your comments to the board. Next on the agenda is governing board statements. Mr. Pantera.
Thank you, President Case. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. I'm glad you're all here. I'm happy to be here. I'm thinking back of things that happened between the last meeting and this one. We did the student voice. We did that with over at, was that, what high school? Pinnacle, that's right, Pinnacle High School. It was really interesting to talk to the students about how they felt about things in the world events, and how they learn about them. I always enjoy that. I even earned a pin. I earned a pin from Mr. Appleman, sorry, Shadow Mountain High School. I've got the pins right here in my bag. Principal's #1 club. So, you know, it's a great meeting. Anytime you get a pin, it's a good thing. You know, we talk about December, it's begin December, first week or so here, and you think about gift giving. And I was thinking about some of the gifts I received as a teacher. I remember one time, a student, Sedona Heidinger, student I had for many years, even in summer school through the gifted program. She gave me a book. It was an old book. I love old books, hardbound books, about 50 operas, the librettos of 50 famous operas. I still have that book and I cherish it. And the reason I thought about that was because before Thanksgiving, I was helping out at the Eagle Ridge Book Fair. We're helping the staff there, the PTA, do their book fair thing. I just love seeing these kids buy books. They're just so excited to have these books and grab them. But what really reminded me of Sedona in that book she gave me was the fact that a lot of them were buying not only for themselves, they were buying books for other people, friends, family members. Bunch of kids excited about reading. They know the value of reading. They enjoy it. They see how it's useful. It just touches my heart all the time. And where do they get that love of reading? Well, here in our schools. You know, teachers reading to them, parents reading to them, finding out, hey, look, if I read this, I know more about something I'm interested in. Even kids that have trouble reading love reading. So I'm really happy and again, touched and proud to be part of this district. And that's the end of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Greenberg?
Thank you, Mrs. Case. We also, since the last board meeting, had donuts for the district at Indian Bend. And once again, lots of incredibly insightful questions and insights from community members. And I appreciate the growing number of people who have returned to that quarterly event, and hope that we did get all your questions answered. Also would like to say that today was the first day of the Arizona School Board's annual conference, and I think many of you here remember that we passed a resolution asking the board to do their fiduciary responsibility to the organization and look at some of the events and issues that the organization has been facing in the past several weeks. And this may be apropos to no one except the folks up here, but there was a business meeting at the end of the day. Mr. Pantera was our delegate. And I just want to say that there were officer elections, and that the 3 individuals who were elected, I believe, will help the organization do exactly what we asked the organization to do in our resolution. And it was a resolution that was supported by many, many districts across the state. And so I have a much better feeling moving into the new year with what our membership organization will be doing. And I also just want to say, as we are heading into finals week, I hope everybody's getting a lot of sleep. I hope everybody's gearing up, and I hope everybody's gearing up for the holidays. I know I would like to wish a happy Hanukkah to all who celebrate, and Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa. And I know there are about a dozen other holidays that are occurring right now, so I apologize for those I missed. But I do hope everybody gets some time to refresh over the break and come back reinvigorated. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Baker?
Thank you, President Case. I just first want to acknowledge that it's been a really hard week for our staff and our families and our district. It's been tough for us up here as well. None of this is easy. I've read lots of emails. I've read all the emails that have come in, and I want you all to know that I am listening, we are listening, and we will continue to listen. All of this weighs on me, but I'm committed to being here and being a support for our community. But luckily, we've had a couple of opportunities to listen to teachers and parents' voices with Student Voice and Donuts with the District. Student Voice is probably one of the biggest perks of this job. Every time I get to hear the high schoolers talk and I hear their thoughts and I hear their opinions and how they view the world, it makes me really hopeful for our future. And I'm just so grateful for all of the high school students that we have here in the district. And Donuts with the District was well attended. We had great comments and questions and conversation. And then I also got to go to some of Sounds of the Season. Maureen Minnick did a fantastic job. I thought I saw her earlier, but I don't know where. Oh, hi. She did a fantastic job putting that together. Thank you to all the teachers, staff, everyone who helped out with that, parents who brought their kids. It was a wonderful event, and my family and I really enjoyed it. So thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Christensen?
Good evening, and I'd like to thank you all for coming today, including the young community members in row 4 over there. Thank you for coming today. I know December is super busy, and however you spend your holidays, I hope it's joyous and filled with love. And I'm going to send an apology because you're going to see me sneaking out. Speaking of being busy, many of you know I have a senior, and today is his winter choir showcase down the road at Horizon, and it's going to be a short choir, so I'm hoping to be back in time to hear all the comments later. But I just wanted to apologize ahead of time because I was distraught that both things were happening at once. But Dr. Bell's ensured that going with family is the right thing to do. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'd just like to make a few comments. As Mrs. Baker explained, it's been some hard times in our district of change and different things going on. And I have received many emails and comments from constituents and listen to everyone and read all the emails. And I just wanted to let you know that this board is committed to listening to you. I also attended Student Voice, and it was fabulous. It's one of my favorite things that we get to do as a member of the school board is listen to these students and hear their amazing, thoughtful responses to the questions we pose to them. And I missed the Donuts with the District because I was sick, but I'm glad that more people are attending that. And may I personally wish everyone who celebrates Hanukkah a happy Hanukkah and wish a Merry Christmas to those who celebrate, and to all the other holidays, happy holidays. And I think everyone is looking forward to a break following finals, and hopefully everyone will have that opportunity to rest. Next on the agenda is awards and recognitions. Dr. Bells.
Thank you, President Case. Government board members, at this time, I'd like to invite you to join me in front of the dais.
Good evening, President Case, governing board members, Dr. Bales, members of cabinet, and attendees both in person and virtual. Tonight, we have several recognitions to share with you. This evening, we'll be inviting our guests to the front of the room for recognition and a photo. When I say your name, please make your way to the front of the room. Our first honorees have made history by winning their third consecutive 5A Girls Volleyball Conference Championship. This impressive and much-deserved win came after a tough battle on the court. Facing off against the Millennium Tigers, this team proved themselves as a force to be reckoned with after winning a very intense 3 out of 5 sets. Throughout the season, they have demonstrated perseverance and grit and have grown as a team. Their unstoppable drive and stellar coaching were key to guiding the team to a victorious season. Unfortunately, these student athletes had prior commitments this evening and are unable to attend. However, representing the Horizon High School girls volleyball team are coaches McKenna Skaggs, Matt McKinster, and Sarah Kerbaugh.
bosses and they came back in the fifth set to win. It was amazing.
Our next honoree was nominated by the Arizona Interscholastic Association to receive the National Federation of State High School Associations Arizona Girls Swimming and Diving Coach of the Year Award for the 22-23 school year. She was nominated by AIA for being a leader in athletics and for her active school involvement and positive contributions to the community. Unable to be here this evening, but still certainly worthy of our applause, please help me congratulate from Horizon High School girls swim and dive coach Samantha Kramer. Next is the Paradise Valley Education Support Professional of the Month. PVSEA President Ms. Michelle Courtwright is here to make the presentation.
President Case, Governing Board, Dr. Bales, and Cabinet. This is one of the things I love the most. Tonight, we are going to recognize Charla Hunt. She's an instructional assistant for related services. And over again, I hear she's reliable, she's our right-hand man, she does whatever we ask. But the thing that struck me the most was that she understands the individual needs of each program that we serve in this district. And more than one of the people in here talks about when materials are not available to buy, she comes up with those things. One of the examples they use is a composition book was not available that had special lined paper. So in an hour, she made this for a high school student, and it made the world of difference to that student. That's what we do in this district. We meet kids where they are, and we provide them with what they need. And we could not do that without teachers and support staff to do those extra things. So it is with great pleasure that we recognize Charla Hunt this month. She cannot be here, but I'm hoping she is online. But this is what we do in this district. Thank you.
Our next recognition is the recipient of the Paradise Valley Education Association's Recognition of Professional Standards Award for Teachers. The honoree this evening will be introduced by Ms. Diane Siekman, PVEA President.
Good evening, President Case, Governing Board members, Dr. Bales, Cabinet, and guests. I'm pleased to present the PVA Props Award this evening to Megan Miller, a special ed teacher at Horizon High School. Megan was nominated by her colleagues for this award, and this is what they shared about her. I'm very fortunate to have the pleasure of working with Megan in several capacities for many years. She is truly an inspiration. She brings so many professional attributes to Horizon High School. I have sat in IEPs with her and consulted with her on numerous topics regarding students. Her creativity and willingness to support students has helped those students reach their highest potential. When working with students, she looks at the whole person to address their specific needs. She's a fierce advocate for her students. Megan focuses on the strengths of her students to help overcome challenges. Megan thinks outside the box and goes the extra mile to ensure that student needs are met both academically and emotionally. She has a true passion for her job, and it shines through when she is working with students and colleagues. She goes above and beyond to seek out opportunities for her students to improve and be successful. She's an advocate, a mentor, an inspiration to so many students. Teachers feel blessed to have the privilege to work side by side with her, and Horizon High School is very lucky to have her as a member of the family. I'm pleased to introduce my colleague, Megan Miller, and present the PVA Props Award.
And that, President Case, concludes this evening's awards and recognitions.
Next on the agenda is superintendent's comments. Dr. Bells.
Thank you, and a happy holidays to everybody. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah tonight to our special friends, and however you choose to celebrate the holiday season, may it be a time of rest and joy. In PB Schools, we really do try to engage, inspire, and nurture our students through high-quality instruction, meaningful educational opportunities, and dynamic learning experiences. And many of those experiences I've had the pleasure of witnessing firsthand as superintendent. In my time as the proud superintendent of PB Schools, I've had the great joy of seeing students excel on the national stage and stand out among their peers in athletics, as we recognize tonight, fine arts, and academics. I've had the great pleasure of being a part of a district that puts students first, having been named a Forbes top employer for several years in a row. And I've witnessed many of our school communities stand out as some of the best elementary, middle, and high schools in the country. There truly is a journey of excellence for all our students here in Paradise. And tonight, I'd like to thank our community for supporting our mission. Time to dust off those running shoes. Coming up fast is our 14th annual Community 5K Fun Run. This event encourages active lifestyles among our students, staff, and community, and will be held Saturday, February 3rd in person at Horizon High School. Registration is now open, and participants who register by January 5th will receive a t-shirt. For more information or to register, visit runsignup.com between now and February 3rd. More information can also be found on our website and by listening to the district podcast, PV Beat, where you can download that on Apple or Spotify. Now, this one's really cool. This is ACER Repair Certification. PB Schools wants to recognize the tech-savvy students who passed their ACER assessment and earned an ACER Repair certification. These CREST students are an invaluable asset to their school and the district. Within the first week of passing the ACER exam, the student interns went to work and repaired almost 50 student Chromebooks, which proved to be a tremendous help to our IT department. This program would not be possible without the support and supervision of all the amazing staff members who have provided this hands-on opportunity. It's programs like this that help PB Schools stand out. And I look forward to seeing more opportunities for students interested in STEAM as we continue to grow and implement our district-wide STEAM initiative. Congratulations to Pinnacle Peak Prep, Desert Springs Prep Fireside, North Ranch, Quail Run, Sandpiper, Sonoran Sky, Desert Trails, Boulder Creek, Wildfire, Greyhawk, Copper Canyon, Desert Shadows Elementary, and Mercury Mine Elementary, as well as Explore, Desert Shadows, and Sunrise Middle Schools for being named among the best public elementary and middle schools in the nation by U.S. News and World Report. This truly is a testament to the hard work of our students, staff, and teachers in the community, as well as their collective commitment to the journey of excellence. To learn more about our amazing schools, continue to visit pbschools.net. And lastly, for the past 36 years, I've dedicated my life to student success in public education, giving me the opportunity of a lifetime to witness firsthand the dedication of students, staff, and the community. And that dedication helps put Paradise in PV Schools, where each and every day, many journeys of excellence continue for students and staff who are led on diverse paths to personal and professional growth and opportunity. My journey is no different, and while I'm proud to serve our community in the capacity of superintendent, you know that I announced last week that is my intention to retire at the end of the year. And when you adopted the agenda tonight, you approved that request. And though I will miss greatly working in Paradise, I'm very proud to have served the last 25 years of this career here. And to all the employees and colleagues and friends of PB Schools, I consider it a great privilege to have served this district as a principal, assistant superintendent, and superintendent. I will forever cherish the memories I've made working closely with the remarkable individuals across this district. And to our governing board, thank you. Thank you for supporting the district and your faith in me as superintendent. Together as an organization, we have achieved numerous milestones, including many stakeholder opportunities for input, promoting parental involvement, and enabling parent choice. Your personal words of gratitude and appreciation over the last week and your well wishes have been much appreciated. And to close out my comments, to the incredible PV Schools community, express my deepest gratitude for allowing me to embark on this remarkable journey of excellence. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
I really don't want to continue after that. Thank you, Dr. Bells. Next on the agenda is items for approval. G1, Dr. Bells.
Thank you, President Case, governing board members, cabinet, and guests. And tonight, we present for consideration and approval a clinical education agreement with Mayo Clinic. To explain and recommend, Dr. Corson.
Good evening, President Case, members of the governing board, Dr. Bales, cabinet, and guests. This memorandum of understanding is a new agreement with Mayo Clinic, Arizona, and its Health Careers Education Program to provide clinical observation experiences for PV students enrolled in Career and Technical Education Nursing Program. This MOU will remain in effect for 5 years and has been reviewed by our legal counsel, and we do recommend approval. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Do we have to move
Oh,
it first?
We have no public comment on this. May I have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve item G1.
Resolution number 553. Thank you. Any board member wishing to make a comment? I want to make a comment.
Sure.
We have another agreement with Mayo for students. This is separate from that. Is that correct?
Correct. We have another, President Case, we do have another memorandum of agreement through internships in cooperation with Elevate Ed Arizona and the Greater Phoenix Chamber of Foundation. This memorandum of agreement, however, is for clinical observation experiences, which is different than the previous memorandum.
Okay. I appreciate all these opportunities that our students have. And this is fabulous. So I'm really excited about it. Other comments? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda for items of approval is G2, Dr. Bells.
Thank you, President Case, governing board members, cabinet, and guests. And tonight we present for consideration and approval an IGA between the Arizona Department of Education and PV Schools for an arts consumable grant. Ms. Copen will explain.
President Case, Governing Board, Dr. Bales, Cabinet, and guests. This is a new agreement that allows PV schools to partner with the Arizona Department of Education to provide funding for consumable art supplies for visual and performing arts teachers. This grant will allow each full-time art teacher to receive $1,000. This funding will directly benefit our students. It's exciting to see the state supporting our arts programs. Our attorney has reviewed this agreement, and we recommend approval.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve this?
I move we approve item G2, resolution number 554.
Thank you. Any board member wishing to make a comment?
I would, oh, go ahead, Ms.
Mrs. Greenberg?
Greenberg.
No, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate that we are always looking for opportunities to get grant money, et cetera, that will support our teachers and our students. And this is just a perfect example. And I also want to echo your thanks to ADE because it's great to have them supporting this particular area.
Mr. Pantera?
Yes, I'm very excited about this one too. Art is, if nothing else, very consumable, especially when I do art. You gotta, oh, that's no good, that's no good. And it's so hard. I remember as a teacher trying to get what I needed to do simple art projects. This kind of thing is fantastic. I'm really excited about it. Thank you.
Any other comments? I just want to say hooray. This is fabulous. I'm so excited for this. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. This is G4, approval for G3. Oh, I skipped it. excuse me, G3. Um, Dr. Bells.
Thank you, President Case, Governing Board members, Cabinet, and guests. And tonight we present for second reading and approval the proposed new courses and revisions for the 24-25 high school course catalog. There are no changes from the first reading that we had on November 16th, but Ms. Copen and her team are here to answer any questions. We do recommend approval.
Thank you. We have one card for public comment. Lily Grisham.
Pass.
You pass it, okay. May I have a motion to approve new courses and revisions?
I move we approve item G3 of the consideration and approval of the new courses and revisions of the 2024-2025 high school course catalog.
Any board members wishing to make a comment? I must say that I'm really excited. So these are fabulous. I'm so excited for the opportunities for our students. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Now we're going to G4. Dr. Bells.
Thank you, President Case, Governing Board member, Cabinet, and guests. And now we present for consideration and approval the purchase of architectural services for some work at North Canyon High School. To help explain and recommend the item, Ms. Berrigan.
Thank you, Dr. Bales, President Case, and board members. The district has been awarded a $416,000 building renewal grant from the School Facilities Division for the architectural and engineering services design phase of a re-roofing project for North Canyon High School. The next steps in the process pending this evening's board approval would be that the district opens a purchase order, which would enable us to be able to accept a very significant grant from SFD of $416,000. Then the architectural and engineering designs would be completed. The invoices would be approved by the district and submitted to the School Facilities Division. And then the SFD funds payment of the invoices to our district. And then we will be able to use those SFD dollars to fund the payment of this. So this approval this evening effectively starts that process so we can accept that grant.
May I have a motion to approve the purchase from Current One GPA cooperative contract?
I move for the approval of G4, consideration to approve purchase from the current GPA cooperative contract.
Thank
It's
you.
written there, all the other things.
Any board member wishing to make a comment?
I do.
Okay. Mr. Penn.
Whenever they talk about roofing projects coming up, I remember early teaching this in the district, and we were building a lot of schools back then, and the roofs were always a bugaboo, probably. Whenever time it rained, you could always think about, where am I gonna put a bucket here underneath somewhere in the classroom? So I'm really excited that we got these really good architectural companies coming in and make sure they're putting them in correctly the first time. So I'm really happy about this one.
Thank you. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is items for approval, G5, Dr. Bells.
Thank you, President Case, Governing Board members, Cabinet, guests. And tonight we hold our public hearing for fiscal 23-24 budget revision, followed by consideration and approval of the fiscal year 23-24 budget revision for your approval. Ms. Berrigan, would you please explain?
I will, Dr. Bales. Thank you, and President Case and board members. If I can get my presentation on the screen. Maybe. Dr. Holmes just asked me if I have it memorized. No, I do not. There we go. Thank you. Just this evening, we have a few items to do for the December budget revision. I'll outline the maintenance and operation and district additional assistance differences, the average daily membership differences, and the impact on the budget. For the maintenance and operation budget, just as a reminder, that's the largest portion of our budget. There's a very small difference this year. That's a little bit unusual for us. So just a difference of decrease of just over $73,000, and then an unrestricted capital, about an increase of just under $550,000. The average daily membership is decreasing this year. We expected a decrease, and we have actually an additional decrease of enrollment of about 300 students more And that will equate to a little bit more in ADM, that average daily membership number. So that number will change. It changes throughout the year. We haven't hit our 100th day yet. And then there are revisions from the Arizona Department of Education all the way up through November of the subsequent year. But we will do another budget revision in May that will update the ADM. We do always put our ADM higher for the adopted budget just to ensure we don't lose out on capturing the M&O override capacity and the tax rate. The M&O carry forward increase just from the budget revision, or excuse me, the budget adoption to this revision from 15.5 million to 19.8. It was a little bit lower in the revision at that time. We still had many encumbrances. And so that was the number, though we were expecting much closer to this $19 million number. That's the number we were planning for when we did our budget planning throughout the year. We also thought our teacher experience index was only going to be 1.004. It ended up being a little bit more than that, 1.0045. So we'll take every extra penny we can get. And then approximately $200,000 more in one-time funding. Their legislature allocated some one-time funding this year, and that will give us about $200,000 more. Just a reminder, these changes are really only to our budget forms, the actual technical forms that we have to upload to the Arizona Department of Education, and that is all posted on our website. But the real impact on the operating budget will be discussed when I start to present budget this winter and work with the bargaining teams on our budgetary changes. And then again, final budget revision in May. And I know there's another agenda item that people are anxious to get to, but I'm happy to take any questions on the budget revision.
Well, just now you talked about.
May
Oh,
I have
sorry.
a motion, please?
Well, we should probably have one. You're right. I move to approve item G5.
Thank you. Any comments?
Well, just a question
Mr.
of
Pantera?
the average daily membership, that's different than attendance, right? It's a different animal.
It is. About 10 years ago, school districts were funded off of average daily attendance, meaning that it mattered for funding purposes, the number of days that students were actually in attendance versus just enrolled with the district. Attendance does still matter. I'm not saying attendance doesn't matter, but for funding purposes, we're not penalized if students aren't in attendance unless it ends up being for more than 18 days, and that's a whole nother situation.
Yeah, because it's like a prorated thing. There's the enrollment date and then when they first show up. Difference between if they're 3 days after enrollment to like 80 days after enrollment.
Right, that would make a difference. And we are funded through the first 100 days of the school year, which is why I mentioned the 100th day number often. We're not funded for all 180 days that we're in session, so.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all I
Very
had.
welcome.
That's all I had to ask.
Thank you. Any other comments? I have a comment. Is this presentation mandated by the government, by statute?
The budget revision is a statutory requirement if you have larger than, I think, a $500,000 difference or a 1% difference. Neither happens to be the case for us this year, but I still think it's important for us to do a budget revision this time of year, just kind of updates people and reminds them and keep an eye on things with the budget. So it technically was not required for us this year, but you know, our community is used to that and wanted to make sure we stuck with it.
Thank you. And these are done, what, 4 times a year?
We do a budget adoption or a budget proposal and adoption in June. So that's 2 times where we present the budget. Again, in December is the budget revision, and then a final budget revision in May. There are sometimes school years where school districts have to do a 3rd budget revision because of decisions that, you know, the legislature may make, but a typical year is 4 times.
It's amazing how much information you give us. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Now we are on to G6. Dr. Bells.
Thank you, President Case, governing board members, cabinet, and guests. And tonight we present for consideration and approval of scheduling a community forum and public hearing on Tuesday, January 23rd, 2023, Tuesday, January 23rd, 24, for the purpose of receiving public comment regarding potential school closures and resulting boundary changes in accordance with state statute pertaining to 1, potential school closures pertaining to the following school campuses: Hidden Hills Elementary, Sunset Canyon Elementary, Desert Springs Preparatory, Vista Verde Middle School. And 2, potential boundary changes pertaining to the following school campuses: Desert Trails Elementary and Sonoran Sky Elementary as sending schools, Larkspur Elementary, Desert Cove Elementary, Eagle Ridge Elementary, Pinnacle Peak Preparatory, Grayhawk Elementary, Liberty Elementary, North Ranch Elementary, Greenway Middle School, Sunrise Middle School, and Shea Middle School as receiving schools. This is a topic that pulls on the heartstrings. It is not an easy conversation, and it's certainly not one that we haven't had before. We have had it before, unfortunately. I've been here 25 years, as I mentioned, and it's a conversation that this district has had to deal with in having five previous school closures over the last almost 20 years, the first in 2004. It is a difficult conversation to have, and if you haven't had the opportunity, I encourage you to watch the presentation. Well, we'll give one here in a minute as kind of a more brief presentation, a repeat from the conversation that the board had and received on Tuesday. The video presentation of these materials was recorded and posted to the website yesterday afternoon. This is not a challenge. This is a challenge that's not unique to PV. And it's, as I've said before, there's national trends. Just in the last couple of weeks, there are places in Michigan, Texas, and Mississippi that are closing 10, 12, or 15% of their buildings. So it's happening other places as well. And while there is projections for lower birth rates and school-age population decreasing in certain areas of the country, a shortage of affordable housing for young people is a factor, and certainly choice, as it is in Arizona. But it's not unique to the other states. Here, just in our state, Glendale Elementary closed 5 schools just in the last year. So it has to be a conversation that we have, because we have declined in enrollment for almost 20 years. Our peak was 34,000 in the early 2000s, and now we're around 26.5. So it has been a challenge and a conversation that this board, as well as the previous board, encouraged me to facilitate, and that's what we have done. The timeline has not been rushed. The first conversation started on October of 22. It continued into March of 23, and at that time, with your direction, we developed a call to committee and have some very dedicated volunteers that worked representing all parts of the district. And so to help with me with this presentation, Ms. Jill Berrigan and Dr. Steve Jairus will provide the presentation again.
Thank you, Dr. Bales, President Case, and governing board members. Can we get the presentation? Thank you. So this is the agenda for the evening. We will discuss the purpose and outcomes of the committee, share the committee members, the timeline that was put forward and shared, the background and enrollment data that we received, as well as the process and considerations that the committee used in making its recommendations. We'll then share the committee recommendations and move forward through questions. The committee purpose and outcomes were to review the district enrollment trends and other data that were relevant in the committee making their decisions to have the most efficient use of our buildings. The committee was also to meet with our demographer, which we did on 2 occasions, and Dr. Jairus and I had many conversations with him through intermittent from those meetings. And that was to look at the enrollment currently and where the enrollment was moving forward, as well as meeting with some internal staff to see what decisions might impact our schools and programs. And then finally, the committee was tasked with providing recommendations to close schools and or redraw boundaries. These were our wonderful committee members. As you can see, we had committee member makeup from all of the different stakeholders within our district, our certified staff, classified staff, our district administrators, parents, and our school administrators. And on Tuesday of this week, I shared my appreciation for the work that these folks did. It was a lot of time, not just in the committee meetings, but outside of that, to consider the recommendations and consider proposals to make. We discussed many, many options throughout, and nobody took any of this lightly, and they were very thoughtful in the recommendations that were put forward. So again, I share my appreciation of the committee members. This is the timeline put forward and shared previously with the board, but just to reiterate, the meetings in pink there, starting back in April of this year, were our committee meetings. We had 7 of them up through November 17th, and we actually had a final meeting with them last Friday, just a short half-hour meeting to reiterate where everything stood. The meetings in green are the board meetings that are required, starting with this past Tuesday, December 5th. We had the governing board study session where we first presented the committee's work and recommendations. The meeting tonight, which would be to notify the community of the large community forum to potentially take place on January 23rd. If so approved, then tomorrow, the communication will come out from the district regarding some regional forums as well as the large community forum. The regional forums are in yellow, and those will take place January 9th, 10th, 16th, 17th, and 18th at the schools listed here. And we will separate the information regionally so that they can focus on what is happening in their area. Then again, in green, the other board meetings, January 23rd, the board will be at the District Community Forum at PV High School. And then February 8th would be the final potential vote on the recommendation from the committee. Then if it is recommended beginning February 12th, the specific parent notification on the student transfer process will begin. As an estimated cost savings, this information was shared with the committee as well as shared this past Tuesday. We make some assumptions about expenditures and revenues and what will happen when schools are closed. The assumption based off of what's happened with our district and school closures in the past, as well as other districts who have recently closed schools, is that you save approximately 14% on staffing for functions 1,000, 2,122. Function 1,000 is instruction, that is our teachers and our paraprofessionals in the classroom. 2,100 is our student support, so that's attendance clerks and psychologists, counselors, and positions of that nature. And then 2,200 is librarians, mostly, for the most part. We only save 14% there because when you do combine schools, there are some savings for those positions, but you're not going to just eliminate an entire staff by moving students. There is the savings in function 2,400, which is school administration, because when you do combine schools, you generally, you're not going to need 2 principals at a school. And so that is a large portion of savings from the salaries and benefits perspective at about 95%. In terms of a total dollar amount, though, the real savings comes in the maintenance, what we know as maintenance of plant, or the maintenance and operation of the building. Most of that being the utility costs, and we would likely save around 70% of that. We do still keep our unoccupied buildings at 85 degrees so that you don't have wear and tear on the building that the heat may cause, and we still have to care for the building. You generally also don't need a day-to-day custodian when you don't have people in that building every day, but there is still internal and external maintenance so that the buildings don't become a blight on the community as well. With revenues, there's a projected loss of 12.5% of ADM. That's that average daily membership at the schools that close. We certainly hope not to lose those students. We'd love to keep every single student that we have, but we do understand that families may have to make different decisions if we are closing schools. All of these numbers are very conservative. I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver on what the potential savings would be, so the conservative number is about $600,000 per school. It will likely be more savings than that, but just from a conservative perspective, we're estimating that at $600,000 per school.
As Dr. Bales mentioned, this is not our first time talking about closing schools. We first began this project in 2004 when we closed Gold Dust Elementary School. And if we can get it back up on the screen so I can read the details. But that was when we closed Gold Dust Elementary School, and until 2021, that became our Early Childhood Learning Center, also known as the Choya Complex. And in 2021, the building was raised, and it became the house for our Roadrunner Elementary School, or Roadrunner School, which is an alternative special education school. The previous Roadrunner School is then rented out by an outside vendor and serves as a revenue source for us. Thank you. In 2014, we closed Village Vista and Foothills Elementary Schools. Foothills is currently being utilized by our community education program for a rental and for housing some of our internal programs. And Village Vista was closed and became our Sweetwater Community School, which is a secondary alternative school. And in 2019, we closed Air Libre and Arrowhead Elementary Schools. Air Libre is being utilized by our online program, PV Online, and community education for rentals. And then Arrowhead became the James P. Lee Early Childhood Center, which was the early childhood center that was previously housed at the Goldust/Cholla complex and was moved to the Arrowhead campus. As was mentioned, this information was first presented to the governing board at a study session on October 20th, 2022, where we provided a demographic report which showed our 10-year history of enrollment, as well as 10-year projections. And we began the discussion of some closing considerations at that time. The meeting information was brought back to the March 2nd, 2023 board study session, where we brought in those demographics as well as some facility use information and more enrollment projections. At that time, it was identified that 7 of our elementary schools were below 400 students. Since that time, that has grown to 9. 2 of our middle schools were under 500 students, which has also increased. And at that time, the governing board expressed an interest in convening a school closure committee, which is what we started. The committee began by looking at that same data that the governing board had. They reviewed our current enrollment as well as 10-year projections. They received some additional data points for all of our schools, what special programs we have at each school, the building capacity, any kind of self-contained enrollment for either gifted or special education, open enrollment projections and trends, special education classrooms, free and reduced lunch percentages, letter grades, outer boundary locations, meaning are they bordering another district and then serve as a vehicle for perhaps attracting students from other districts, the number of transportation routes, and the building condition. What we asked the committee to do was look at the district as a whole rather than at individual schools and identify areas where there's room for consolidating or rebounding to address multiple schools that might have low enrollment. And this did not involve looking at the demographics of the school or the performance of the school. Is strictly based on enrollment. Where's an area where our enrollment is low at multiple schools that we should have a conversation. And the committee identified 5 different regions is what we started calling them. 4 of them were elementary school regions, and 1 of them was a middle school region. And within those conversations, within those regions, they evaluated multiple options. They looked at each of the schools and what it would look like to perhaps close each of those schools and what would be the impact on the programs and the students and the neighborhoods. And then also, if you were to close a school, how would you might break up and change the boundaries to reflect a new situation. In all, about 15 to 16 different schools were named as possible closure opportunities. And within that, then 29 different options were explored in terms of how you would redraw the boundaries if you were to close each of those schools. In addition to the data, they also talked about the following considerations. Consider keeping a neighborhood together. We don't want to split a neighborhood right down the middle, have students on one side of the street attending one school when their neighbors across the street are attending another. Consider transportation, open enrollment, variance issues and concerns. The special education programs and the impact on those students. Our limitation on resources, especially as it pertains to our buses and drivers. The distance from school that students would be traveling, the need to cross major intersections, the length of a time a student is on a bus, safe routes to schools, walking versus busing versus parent transportation in each of those communities. Trying to be forward thinking to allow for future growth in an effort to minimize future changes for families. We recognize that, especially with open enrollment and choice, our enrollment will continue to trend in a way that we can't always predict, and we want to be flexible that in the future, especially in the north part of our district where there's still land to be developed, that we allow ourselves some options for those situations. Looking ultimately to balance school enrollment and to identify open enrollment trends. In these conversations, it's important to note that no one of these considerations necessarily weighed more heavily than others. So there is no way to find a solution to address each of these conditions in a way that would be satisfactory to everybody. But it was important to recognize the impact that each decision might have and to recognize that we might be falling short in some of these categories, and is there a solution to that? The only two considerations that really weighed the most heavily were capacity. If we're going to close a school, we need to have nearby schools to be able to send them to. And so we had to look closely at the capacity of nearby schools to accept students, as well as the special education programming. Our self-contained programs sometimes require up to 6 or 7 classrooms. And if they were to be moved, we would need to have a building that could accept 6 or 7 classrooms to accept that program. So that was also part of the conversation that our special education department worked closely on to bring that information to the committee in terms of being able to find solutions for those programs. So the data that we presented, this is the K-6 enrollment. You can look at the past 5 years from 2019-20 to 2023-24, this current year. That's the highlighted section there with the box. And then the projected next 5 years. If you look at the last 5 years, you can see that we've seen a reduction of almost 2,300 students in this category. And we also have about 9 schools, I believe it's 9 schools that are below 400 students. So in talking about what regions are there where there are multiple schools that we can be having a conversation about, the first one we will discuss is what we call the Southwest region, and that's Hidden Hills, Larkspur, and Desert Cove. Each of those schools falls in that category of being below, having low enrollment. And ultimately, after discussing all the different options and the elements, this committee's recommendation was to close Hidden Hills Elementary School. Under this recommendation, the general education students from Hidden Hills would be sent to Larkspur. Actually, would be sent to Larkspur. All the general education students would be sent to Larkspur. I apologize, that's a slight typo there. Hidden Hills, the self-contained program, would be, let me back up to that first bullet point. The general education students would be from Hidden Hills would be sent to Larkspur Elementary School. The portion of Larkspur's boundaries would be then sent to Desert Cove, and I'll show you on a map how that's being split up. I apologize for the error and how that was translated on that first bullet point. Hidden Hills Self-Contained Emotional Disabilities Program Connections would be moved as part of the district-wide consolidation. Larkspur does not have the capacity to accept another self-contained program, and actually they have a self-contained program of their own that would need to be moved. Our Connections program, it's a very tough decision to make because they're well connected with the community, but we want to make sure that they are being served properly and have the adequate space. And as part of special education's evaluation of the program, we currently have 3 campuses that have a Connections program. And with dwindling referral rates over the last several years, there's a strong belief that we can consolidate that into 2 campuses. And so that program would be housed at Palomino as part of that consolidation effort. And the LAS program at Larkspur would be moved to the other LAS program at Copper Canyon. Here, looking at the map, you can see that the green area on the left-hand side is the Hidden Hills boundaries. So those current Hidden Hills boundaries would be then rebounded over to Larkspur in the purple area there. And the bottom left-hand corner, that's currently part of Larkspur's boundaries, and that would be rebounded over to Desert Cove. And what this would provide us is a couple of schools that have increased enrollment are a little bit more well-balanced. Desert Cove would go from 383 students to 463. And Larkspur would go from 303 to 520. These numbers are based on current enrollment. Obviously, choices that families make may impact that, and open enrollment will be available for families who wish to pursue a different option. But if everyone were to move who's at the school today, these are the projected numbers that we would have in for the next school year. So some points that we took away from this is that it would increase the enrollment at Larkspur and Desert Cove. It would allow us to maintain the use of 2 of our newer buildings. Larkspur was rebuilt in 2012 and Desert Cove was built in 2007. It does not add any transportation routes, and it would allow us to maintain our early childhood academy at Larkspur. That's one of our preschool programs that we use to serve the community and provide kindergarten readiness skills for our students. And again, it does rely on the consolidation of our self-contained special education programs for Connections and LAS. The next region is the West Central region, and that's Eagle Ridge, Sunset Canyon, and Quail Run. And again, after looking at the options here, the committee's ultimate decision was to close Sunset Canyon. And in this case, the move would just be all of the students would be moving to the one school. General education would be moved to Eagle Ridge, as well as their self-contained structured 1 and structured 2 autism programs. They would move to Eagle Ridge as well. Eagle Ridge does have that same program that Hidden Hills has, the Connections program, and as part of that consolidation effort, that program would be consolidated with the Hidden Hills program and placed on the Palomino campus. And this map is a little bit simpler than the other one. It's, you can see the Sunset Canyon boundaries are the pink area there, and all of the all the students would be rebounded over to Eagle Ridge Elementary School. And what this would leave us with is Eagle Ridge's enrollment would increase from 366 students to 678 students. And that does better utilize the high capacity of Eagle Ridge. Eagle Ridge has an additional building that was built from the original campus, and they have capacity, I believe, close to 850, if I remember correctly. It is one of our larger capacity schools. It does not split the Sunset Canyon community. That was a big part of our conversation in terms of dividing that community if not needed. And then Eagle Ridge does border another school district, and it's one of those outer boundary schools that helps bring in students from other districts. This recommendation would not add transportation routes. And again, it does rely on the consolidation of self-contained special education programs at other schools, in particular the Connections program.
The next region is the Northeast region, and this includes Desert Trails, Pinnacle Peak, and Grayhawk. The committee ultimately provided a recommendation to not close any schools in this area due to the fact that this is eventually where the district will see growth, but to do some reboundary, as Desert Trails is a little bit larger than the other 2 schools right now. And so it'd be to reboundary the Desert Trails Elementary School boundaries east of 56th Street to go to Grayhawk and Pinnacle Peak. This is a map of what that would look like. You see in I think that is an orange or a brown color, Pinnacle Peak boundaries there, and 56th Street, which is not a straight road. That's where the split would occur. And those north of the Deer Valley lineup, although that's the dotted line to Deer Valley, it will actually probably align more with Thompson Peak based off of what the city has shared with us, which is a little bit further south on that eastern side there. Regardless, that will put the Talon community north of that alignment and going to Pinnacle Peak. And because there are no homes south of that Deer Valley alignment right now, there would be no students added to Grayhawk, but eventually there will be some growth there. Just right now, there aren't any homes there. So what that does for each of the enrollments for Desert Trails, we would move from 651 to 591 students to balance them out a little bit better. Grayhawk, as I mentioned, would stay the same at 380 since there are no homes there currently. And then Pinnacle Peak Prep would go from 453 to 513. So you can see that balances out those 3 schools to be a little bit more even for the time being. Without closing schools, that does maintain that option for growth for us in the north part of the district. The next region is the East region. This includes North Ranch, Liberty, and Desert Springs. The recommendation is to close Desert Springs Preparatory Elementary School. The boundaries would be split between North Ranch and Liberty Elementary Schools along Greenway Road between 56th Street and Scottsdale. As well, the Desert Springs Structured 1 and Structured 2 programs would move to another school. This one's a little bit more complicated because already the Desert Springs boundaries are a little complicated. You see the top part of Desert Springs is north of the canal and south of the 101 in green. That's their current boundary. That portion of Desert Springs would be reboundaried to North Ranch. Along with just south of there, you see a little yellow triangle, and that is a portion that is currently boundaried to Sonoran Sky. We want to fix that while we're out here taking care of boundaries and move that section over to North Ranch as well. That would help our transportation. And then you can see the southern part of Desert Springs down on the lower right-hand corner of the screen is split into two sections. The section north of Greenway Road would go to North Ranch as well. And then the section south of Greenway Road that's currently Desert Springs would move over to Liberty Elementary just to the west in yellow. What that would do for North Ranch is move its enrollment from 479 to 594, and then for Liberty from 344 to 565. So we see that those are much more balanced numbers as well. In some initial discussions with the committee, Desert Springs was being considered to move into 3 or even 4 schools. And as you saw on one of the slides, trying to keep as many students together as possible was one of the goals of the committee. And so we took another look at this to see if we could get that down to 2 schools and came up with this North Ranch and Liberty option. Also, the condition of the Desert Springs building, it's not our best conditioned elementary school. And then this would help us to increase our enrollment both at North Ranch and Liberty.
And while we have had these conversations in the past, this is the first time we've had a conversation regarding the closing of a middle school. And you can see again, our last 5 years of enrollment with our elementary schools or with our middle schools. And the highlighted section there in the box is the current enrollment where we do have 4 schools below 500 students. And you can see that over the last 5 years, we've lost close to 1,000 students, just over 1,000, just under 1,000 students. So in this conversation, the committee ultimately decided, as they were looking at the middle school regions, that the area to look at, if we could move the slide, please, is Vista Verde, Greenway, and Sunrise area. And in evaluating all the impacts and the options within those 3 areas, the committee ultimately decided to close Vista Verde Middle School. The resulting boundaries would change so that Vista Verde's boundaries will be split between Greenway and Sunrise. And then part of Greenway's current middle school boundaries would also be redrawn, and a portion of the current boundaries would be sent to Sunrise. And then the Indian Bend boundaries, they're an elementary school, but their 6th grade students are currently split. They go off to 3 different middle schools. They go to Sunrise, part of them go to Greenway, and then part of them will go to Shea. And under this new proposal, they will be just split between Shea and Sunrise Middle School. So if you look at this map here, the blue section up at the top that looks kind of like a long rectangular, I guess, dog, is the current boundaries for Vista Verde. The west portion, west of 32nd Street, would be boundaried into the Greenway boundaries. The section east of 32nd Street, north of Bell Road, is currently their boundaries. That would then become part of Sunrise's boundaries. And then that section that's yellow between Greenway and Bell Road, that east of 32nd Street, that's currently part of Greenway's boundaries, they would be sent over to Sunrise. They become part of the Sunrise community. And the section south of Greenway Road between Greenway and Sweetwater, that's that Indian Bend community that I just talked about, that currently goes to Greenway, that would be sent down to Shea. And the resulting enrollment projections would be Greenway would be go from 414 to 604 students, 482 at Shea to up to 628, and 387 up to 502. I'm not finished with that slide. Part of the multiple options of changing boundaries in there was a desire to not have a Title I middle school that is up over 800 students. Obviously, our title communities have additional challenges that they work with and different needs, and having that be our largest middle school in the district was something that was not desirable. And so some of those additional changes to push more students into Sunrise was to help balance out the enrollment and also maintain a reasonable enrollment at Greenway and Shea. So that does increase to 3 schools with their enrollment. It creates kind of a more centralized boundary for Greenway and Sunrise. If you were to split the Vista Verde up and leave everything as is, you'd have a very long stretch of boundaries for Sunrise, and it would have just been, from a transportation standpoint, a challenge. It does not impact any of our special programs, as Vista Verde doesn't have a self-contained program that would need to be relocated. And there are no additional routes for transportation based on the current recommendation. So as a summary, the school closures that are being recommended are for Hidden Hills Elementary School, Sunset Canyon Elementary School, Desert Springs Preparatory, and Vista Verde Middle School. We're looking at recommending a rebounding opportunities for Desert Trails Elementary School, the section east of 56th Street. That would go to Grayhawk and Pinnacle Peak Preparatory. And then also rebounding a small portion of that little triangle of Sky Crossing west of Scottsdale Road to North Ranch. And then we have receiving schools that would be impacted by these recommendations, 7 different elementary schools and 3 different middle schools that would be receiving additional students. Our next steps here are obviously we are at today's meeting here reviewing this with you and looking for approval on moving forward with the conversation by scheduling our community meetings. We will continue to review the impact of this with our transportation through looking at bell times and continuing to evaluate our special education programming and all of our routes and the impact that might have and continuing to tweak those to make them effective and for everyone. We have community notices that are going to be going out if this is approved to notify them of our public forums. We have principal communication that's already gone out today, and we have communication we're scheduled to go out tomorrow should this be approved. And then we have other work to do with regards to our Human Resources Department. That'll be working with the staff on the transfer process should these all be approved and how that would be impacting our employees. And then our principals on the receiving end of it will be working on transition plans to welcome new families, give tours, and make sure that our families feel welcome at whatever school that it is that they end up. And a big part of that is including making sure that our families have access to the open enrollment process, which does remain open second semester, so that families have the opportunity to explore and look at the options that are available to them. And
Thank you, Dr. Jarris and Ms. Berrigan. If former board member Dr. Sue Skidmore was here, she'd probably want me to read the book, All the Places You Go. But you know, it's one of those things that really does pull on the heartstrings. It's hard to talk about. We have done it before and we've done it successfully. And we've learned from some of our past mistakes. But it is one of those things that's driven by a declining enrollment. We are 300 students fewer this year than we had budgeted for. We budgeted for 504 fewer students, and it's over 850. So we still have to make decisions in this year's budget of about $2.5 million just on that factor alone. That doesn't consider the other factors that the budget will be impacted by, such as increased utility costs, such as staffing contingencies. We have to add staff where we didn't expect to due to special education needs and such. And so the declining enrollment is what's driving this conversation. We bus over 8,000 students a day. A third of our district qualifies for free and reduced lunch. The requirement from statute to provide a notice, such as this recommendation is, and to hold a public hearing on Tuesday, January 23rd, is required by statute. It is not applicable to charters or privates. They can make the decision overnight, and they have. But for us, we have to follow the statute and the timelines. These recommendations from the committee to cabinet were received and reviewed, and that's what we're presenting tonight for consideration, that the conversation continues, that we have regional forums, that we share this again in those more intimate communities, that we listen and collect feedback, share that with you, have the public hearing on January 23rd. And then if there's still an interest, there would be board action later as mentioned on the timeline. In the 70s and the 80s, we were building schools in the South here every square mile. We no longer have that luxury. If you look from Hidden Hills to Springs, Sandpiper, and in between, it's a cookie cutter model. We use that model a lot because we were building them almost every year, every other year in the 70s. There was huge numbers of people leaving Central Phoenix and coming to the suburbs, Paradise Valley. And so we grew quickly. Now it's our turn. But we have this unique situation where the northern half of our district still has a lot of vacant land. It's state trust land. It's not private land. It doesn't go as quickly as land in other parts of the valley because we have to have a developer want it, express an interest, and send it to auction. When it goes to auction, the State Land Trust collects dollars that come back to support public education. We can no longer build schools every square mile. Since 1994, the state has driven school choice as a factor. And so now we look at a school maybe every 2 to 2.5 square miles. It used to be that, a single family home development with 900 units might give us 400 kids. Now it's about 180. The number of adults and children in a household is declining. And while we have a large number of apartment complexes being built in our district, primarily up and down the Scottsdale corridor, they're not geared to families. They're luxury apartments, high rent, high amenities, high HOA fees. We don't have affordable single-family dwellings popping up like other parts of the valley, whether that be far east or far west or far northwest. So our committee has done a lot of work over the last 6 months. It's been a conversation, a can that has been kicked down the road for the last couple of years, and some of it because of COVID. But it jump-started a year ago. And this committee has done a tremendous amount of work to recommend for cabinet, to us, now to you, some considerations. All of the maps, this presentation, as recorded yesterday, is on a wonderful website. You can go to it anytime, you can see it. You can look at it in detail. We have to have this courageous conversation. And if you approve this recommendation tonight, it just continues the conversation. That's what this action does. And we recommend your approval.
President Case, I recommend that we move.
First, we're going to have public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know about
Okay.
the cards.
So we have 11 cards concerning G6. And I would like to start with Carrie Bunnell, followed by Kaylee Berg. Carrie Bunnell, followed by Kaylee Berg. And you each have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Dr. Bales, the Paradise Valley School Board members, and everyone here who has come to support. My name is Carrie Bunnell. You may not know who I am. I am a PE teacher, a coach, an athletic director for Vista Verde Middle School. I, along with several others, don't quite understand how you speak of these four school closures as being necessary for more essential resources for students. I can assure you that Vista Verde Middle School is an essential resource and safe place for our students. The Vista Verde staff are essential resources for our students. I come here tonight to beg you to vote no on this plan of closing our beloved school. I know you are just doing your job. However, that is exactly what we are doing here tonight. I did not become a teacher to collect a paycheck every 2 weeks. I became a teacher to educate our future leaders. By standing up here tonight, I am doing my job in demonstrating how to be strong, powerful, and that everyone has a voice. I have cried countless tears of frustration with all of my students and staff when we were told you are potentially going to close and lock the doors of Vista Verde after the end of the 2023-2024 school year. I'm not standing in front of you to spit back facts you already know and to why it doesn't make sense to close our school, but in fact to speak to you from the heart on what sets Vista Verde apart from any other middle school. Vista Verde is not just a brick and mortar building with windows and doors. Vista Verde is a living, breathing community. Vista Verde is not just a school, it is a family. Vista Verde is not just textbooks and standards, it is a legacy. A legacy of 35 years that is our home. I have been blessed with being a part of this legacy and family for 11 years. Vista Verde is where I got my very first teaching opportunity, and Vista Verde has had my back, and now it is my turn to do the same, to support others who have been a part of this Jaguar family since 1989. We are the home of the Jaguars. We are strong, we are brave, and we bleed purple and gold. Unknowingly, you have now brought this community and family closer together than ever before, and we will not permanently close our doors for good without showing you our love and support we have for our district and for our Vista Verde students, because that is what we are all about, helping our students. So please, please consider voting no on this plan of closure for Vista Verde family. Thank you.
Kaylee Berg, followed by Randy Posner. You have 3 minutes.
For allowing me to have this time in front of you guys. I am a mom. I have 3 daughters within the school district, and of course, I am emotional as well. My daughters go to Desert Springs Elementary School, and my husband went there, my brother-in-law went there. We drive from this side of town over. We have open enrollment, and we love the school. Our kids have had many teachers who have advocated for them in their needs at school, whether it be in reading or speech or math, and they've gotten that individualized help that they need. We are asking you to please vote no to keep our school open and safe, and it's our second home. We've been there for now 8 years, and we want to continue. We have our youngest in 2nd grade. We still have many years to go. I don't have any statistics. I don't have any thing prepared. This was a spur of the moment thing for our family, but we do want this school to stay open. We have other family members there as well that we do love to see, not just in family functions, but also at school. We also have seen our kids excel in their grades, as well as when they go to our oldest now in middle school has straight A's because of what she has, had in the past with her teachers at Desert Springs. So I will just end this very short and sweet. Please vote no so our children can stay in their home with their friends and their family. Thank you.
Randy Posner, followed by Nicole Berg.
President Case, Dr. Bales, board members, and cabinet. My name is Randy Posner, and I am a teacher at Desert Springs Preparatory. I have taught in this district for over 20 years, and the last 12 years at Desert Springs as the gifted specialist. I understand the need for our board to be fiscally responsible. I understand the district's declining enrollment, and I understand the committee spent many hours looking at many options. I just don't understand why the recommendation for the East region is Desert Springs. About 2/3 of our students are open enrolled. The Desert Springs family chose us over the neighboring schools. They chose us because of our excellent reputation. I think you've heard that we've been selected as one of the best elementary schools in the nation. They chose us for our structured dress code. They chose us. If Desert Springs closes, they won't follow the new boundaries as they don't live in these boundaries. If our families want to stay with a structured dress code, they're going to choose between a charter school or a private school. The district will lose more students by selecting Desert Springs Prep as the answer to the East region. Our building has been beautifully updated over the past few years with new carpet, paint, cabinetry, and library furnishings. At the study session, it was mentioned that the condition of Desert Springs Preparatory was the reason we were selected in the East. Aren't the other East region schools, North Ranch and Desert Shadows Elementary, similar in age to Desert Springs? How are we in such dire straits that we need to be closed? I ask that you really rethink the recommendation to close Desert Springs Prep Elementary. Thank you.
Nicole Berg, followed by Josh Atkins.
Good evening, Governing Board, Cabinet, President Case, and Dr. Bales. My name is Nicole Berg, and I'm a sixth grade teacher at Desert Springs Preparatory. This is my 11th year teaching sixth grade at this phenomenal school. But I am much more than a teacher because I'm also a community member. I live in the neighborhood of Desert Springs. All 4 of my adult children attended Desert Springs. Before I became a teacher of Desert Springs, I was a parent volunteer. I was a substitute teacher. I was actually a PTA president. Desert Springs is the reason why I became a teacher. What I find difficult to understand and absorb tonight is why our district is closing an A-rated school, and a school that's just been recognized as one of the best elementary schools in the nation by U.S. News and World Report. As Dr. Bales had also mentioned that tonight, so thank you for that. These two recognitions cannot be said about all of the other elementary schools in our district. As mentioned tonight in our presentation, 65% of our students are open enrolled. Like Ms. Posner just said, they're choosing to come to our school. They're choosing to not go to their neighborhood school, but to come to Desert Springs as a school of choice. If you close our school, I don't think your projections for North Ranch and Liberty are actually accurate. I think that these parents, we will lose them to our district. I already know for a fact, speaking to some of my neighbors who send their children to Desert Springs, they're going to go to Scottsdale Christian Academy. They don't want to go to Liberty. They don't want to go to North Ranch. If they wanted to go there, that's where they would have enrolled their children at the time. I would really encourage our board and our cabinet to rethink closing Desert Springs Preparatory Elementary School. I hope you reconsider and listen to our voices tonight. Thank you.
Josh Atkins, followed by Celine Ball.
Good evening, President Case, members of the board, Dr. Bales, cabinet, and guests. My name is Josh Atkins, and I was chosen to serve on the school closure committee. And I wanted to take a second to thank you, the board, for listening to our recommendations and treating them with the seriousness and gravity that something like this deserves. I would like to thank Ms. Berrigan and Dr. Jarris for leading a committee that took into account all voices and all ideas and facilitated discussions that were meaningful, that were poignant and serious, and again, taking into the account the gravity of the task that we were given by you, the board, and Dr. Bales, you, the superintendent. So I just wanted to take a second to thank, again, Ms. Berrigan and Dr. Jarris. Thank you.
Salon Ball, followed by Alexa Isaias.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me this time. My name is Celine Ball, and I am an 8th grade English teacher over at Vista Verde Middle School. It's an honor to be standing in front of you tonight. Dr. Jarris was I'm also a parent in the community, and Dr. Jarris was the principal for both of my children over at Sandpiper Elementary. I'm so glad, Dr. Bales, that you mentioned that we put students first, because I'm here with a letter that one of my 8th grade English students wrote and asked me to read to you. It is much too long to fit into 3 minutes, so with your permission, I'll just read some highlights. My name is Natalie Newitt, and I'm an 8th grader at Vista Verde Middle School. I imagine you think that I'm just a middle schooler and that I'm not emotionally attached to a school, even just a building, but you're wrong. I implore you to think about what you're doing. If you close this middle school, you are saying goodbye to our increasing test scores and effective teachers. If you close this school, you are telling every 7th grader that if things need to be cut from the priority list, they are not important. You are telling every 7th grader that life is unfair, but only to certain people, regardless of whether or not they are doing all the right things and climbing their way to the top. You are telling every 7th grader that it's okay to leave something they believe in behind and to break apart friendships and communities. you're telling every Vista Verde 8th grader they are not going to come back and relive their favorite moments. At Vista Verde, we are constantly reminded that we are one tight-knit community with many upcoming events underway to help our community be a positive, open environment. Many teachers have shown us that they think of us as their own children. There is no doubt that we are all one big Jaguar family, and we are loved. I chose to send my own daughter to Vista Verde Middle School, even though I live in Greenway's boundaries. And like so many other people are suggesting or saying, we're all confused about why we were selected. I have poured my heart and soul into Vista Verde, and I believe in it 100%. Otherwise, I would not have trusted my own child to its care. So please reconsider approving this measure and just think about what's going on. Please hear from our community members too. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexis Isaias and Michelle Cartwright is next.
Hello, my name is Alexia Isais, or Miss Isais to my students at Vista Verde Middle School. I brought with me today the letters of 7th grade students who voluntarily opted in to write to the governing board today concerning the recommendation for the closure of Vista Verde Middle School. If the board agrees to receive them, I am more than just a teacher concerned about her job and the newfound insecurity due to this recommendation, but also as a former Jaguar from 2012 to 2014. And as a current lifelong member of this community, I also live within the neighborhood and within the bounds of Vista Verde Middle School and have for a very long time since I was a child. I cannot be more disappointed in the PV district for even recommending that any of its schools be closed, and I cannot believe that as the infrastructure of our schools are being decimated by budget cuts on the local and federal level, districts themselves are not fighting back and making the conscious choice to also fail our students, teachers, and staff. You cannot blame declining enrollment during the rise of local population. You can blame the vouchers and the charter schools along with the slashes to education funding, but you cannot sit here and tell me that the livelihood and ease of access to dedicated educators in our public schools in our communities is worth $600,000. My students are worth more than $600,000. The other schools being recommended for closure are also worth more than $600,000. I hope the governing board and my former social, sorry, I read that wrong. I hope the governing board are considerate of the incredibly damaging impact that closing the only middle school made to serve this community will cause. Please don't let down Title I communities, and please try your best to fight for us and listen to our voice. Thank you.
Michelle Cartwright, followed by Gabe Cullen.
President Case, Governing Board, Dr. Bales, and Cabinet. My name is Michelle Courtright, and I was a member of the School Closure Committee. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about that committee. The first time I was in there, I looked around and I realized how mindful we were when we selected people. We had people from Title I schools, people from more affluent schools. We had A schools, C schools. We had people that had been through closure before. We had people that were directly impacted, that had children that may be in a closure. This was an emotional meeting. We had tears, we had anger, we had passion. We knew that no matter what we did, somebody was going to be hurt by this, but we knew it had to be done. So from April to December, we went through every piece of data. We asked things of Dr. Berrigan, or Ms. Berrigan and Dr. Jarris, and they brought them to us. We covertly collected our own data without telling anybody why we did it. But we did this because we knew this needed to be done, and it needed to be done with people that care. A lot of people don't realize this, but the recommendation that we put forward, that I stand behind, my program that I work for, at a school that I've been at for 26 years, is moving. There were parents in there whose children go to these schools. There were staff members at these schools that were closing. There were people in that room that this is the third time their program is being moved. We were mindful in that meeting. We knew that this was going to harm. I'm not asking you to not ask questions. I'm asking you to understand that we were mindful. We looked at everything. And I want to thank Ms. Berrigan and Dr. Jarris because they allowed us to make these decisions. When it got hard and we didn't want to make it because we didn't want to be the one everybody was pointing at, they kindly and sometimes a little forcefully pushed us back and said, let's talk some more. And we came to this decision. Every person in that room stands behind what we recommended, and it's not easy. And if anyone ever wants to come and ask me why, I can tell you why we made every decision we did, and none of them were made lightly, and none of them were easy. Thank you.
Gabe Cullen, followed by Nicole Klutwick.
Good evening, board members, ladies and gentlemen. I am no parent, I'm no teacher. I did, however, go to Indian Bend Elementary. I do have a vested interest in this community. And I just wanted to be here to add my voice and support anybody, especially everybody standing up for Vista Verde Desert Springs. I do care, and I'm coming here as somebody who doesn't have like a foot in the door here or anything. But I just want you to know that I am here to stand up and fight with you guys. The issues you presented here, they go deeper than just the board. Like the federal education budget is just not great in Arizona, and anything that I can do to help, I'll be there to stand with you guys and do it. I just wanted to be very brief today and just leave my voice out here and say that I'm standing with you.
Nicole Klutwick, followed by Tyler Couch.
Hi, my name's Nicole Klutwick. Thank you all for being here and for listening. And this is a really, really difficult situation, obviously. I'm not here to talk about any particular school. I'm here to bring something up that I brought up actually in October of 2021. There was a strategic design plan team that was built, and I specifically asked if I could attend those meetings. I was informed by administration, quote, I removed 2 board members and I made the final decision on members. Unlike curriculum committees, this work is not open to guests. Well, Scottsdale Unified School District had a similar committee. And this week, an article came out from the Arizona, which had a letter from the Arizona Attorney General stating that their strategic design team committee, which was also not open to the public, was a violation of open meeting law. That was supposed to be open to the public because it's something that the board has to vote on. It's not under the administration's power or control to make those decisions. And so the things that are going into the decisions that the board is making, the public has a right to know about. I think this falls under the same kind of situation. We have not had open meetings on any of this deliberation. And so you have a lot of people who are very confused on how these decisions were made. Unlike the strategic design, that's all done, set in stone. This is not done. This is not set in stone. You still have the power to make these open meetings, to let the deliberation take place in an open forum so people know why this is happening. When we say that we had lots of stakeholder input, I do want to mention that of the people who were on that strategic design committee, which was only 7 parents, I only looked at the parents. I'm a parent, so I look at it from my own bias. But there were 7 parents. 2 of those parents are on the school closure committee. 2 of those parents were also on the bond committee, which only had 3 parents. We're reusing the same voices over and over, and it's not really fair to the community to not have a voice, to at least be able to listen and send an email to follow up on something that they heard. You don't know what you don't know unless you listen to the people who are in the community. So I have so many questions about the closures, but there's 3 minutes isn't enough time. So again, that's why I recommend open committees. Thank you.
Tyler Crouch.
Good evening, Dr. Bales, members of the board. My name is Tyler Couch, and I attended Paradise Valley Unified Schools for all 13 years of my education. I graduated from Shadow Mountain High School. I saw Mr. Appleman here earlier, and I graduated with dozens of students who attended Hidden Hills Elementary School. And I just want to say that it is heartbreaking that our district is being forced to consider the drastic action of closing schools. As we've heard, local schools are foundational to their local communities, and we lose a huge part of our neighborhoods when those schools close. We should be talking about the best ways we can provide our students with a world-class education, but the state legislator has set us all up to fail. We now have to cut costs to deal with the devastating impacts of ESA vouchers being felt locally only 1 year after the legislator expanded them universally. As of this summer, 27,000 students within the PVUSD boundary received a voucher, but district enrollment only decreased by 800 students. That means over $20 million are being siphoned away from the district by families that didn't even attend public school in the first place. It is unfortunate that such small numbers of students can have such an outsized impact on the 97% of PVUSD students and families who are continuing to choose their local schools. But that is the reality of public education in Arizona. After decades of chronic underfunding, districts simply have no fat left to cut, left only with difficult choices about what programs to cut and what schools to close. I called a friend of mine who grew up around the corner from Hidden Hills and asked her what she remembered about going to school there. Here's what she told me. Field day with the obstacle course and water balloon fights that everyone looked forward to the entire year. Going to after-school clubs and learning how to use computers at clubs like Gen Yes. Putting handprints on the walls in the playground that are there for generations. And most importantly, her 6th grade teacher, who was the reason she decided to get her bachelor's degree in psychology. Thank you, members.
May I please have a motion to approve the scheduling of a community forum and public hearing on Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024, for the purpose of receiving public comment in accordance with ARS 15-34132 and ARS 15-34137 regarding 1 potential school closure pertaining to the following school campuses: Hidden Hills Elementary, Sunset Canyon Elementary, Desert Springs Preparatory, Vista Verde Middle School, and 2 potential boundary changes pertaining to the following school campuses: Desert Trails Elementary School, Sonoran Sky Elementary School, Larkspur Elementary School, Desert Cove Elementary School, Eagle Ridge Elementary School, Pinnacle Peak Preparatory, Grayhawk Elementary School, Liberty Elementary School, North Ranch Elementary School, Greenway Middle School, Sunrise Middle School, and Shea Middle School.
So moved.
Any board members wishing to make a comment? Mrs. Baker?
Thank you, President Case. Thank you to everyone who was on the school closure committee. Thank you to everyone who stood up today and spoke to us about their passion and their love for their schools. I know that schools are the heart of the community. And all week I've been looking for the right words to say to express my empathy and my sympathy and my heartbreak, but honestly haven't been able to find them. Being a governing board member isn't the easiest job that I do for free. Motherhood also ranks up there. But this is the hardest decision I've had to make, and I understand that there's tremendous impact to students, families, educators, the community. Balancing the needs of our educational system with fiscal considerations, especially in a time when schools are so underfunded, is a challenge and one I don't take lightly. As Dr. Bales said, affordable housing impacts this. ESAs, charter schools, short-term rentals, they all share a part in PVUSD's declining enrollment, which leads us to where we are today. That being said, I do have a couple questions. First of all, I asked this earlier, but I want the community to hear it. The staff that are at these schools, do we have places for all of them, or will we be cutting staff?
President Case, Governing Board Member Baker, and Governing Board members. First of all of these recommendations that we present for your consideration do not require any staff layoffs. We believe that we can provide a staffing assignment for everybody. That's for both teachers and support staff and administrators. We have large vacancy rates across the district in all categories, and with our normal attrition, we believe that we can provide an assignment for everybody. I think that answers your question.
Thank you, Dr. Bales. My next question is, which, you talked about structure 1 and structure 2 classrooms moving. Which school are they moving to? And will that increase bus time for any of these students or anything like that?
So President Case, Governing Board Member Baker, and Governing Board members, the consolidation of programs is secondary to this conversation. It's not an agendized item, but is part of this conversation. You know, transportation special programs and such have been considered. What I think it's important to mention is that whatever the final decision is, whether there is 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, it'll have an impact on where we place programs. If there are no closures, then we probably don't need to move any programs. But if there is something between 0 and 4, then it will impact that. So some of those final destinations have not been determined because we don't know whether or not this conversation is going to continue.
Thank you, Dr. Bales. Can I ask one more question? You had said earlier that only enrollment was taken into consideration, not title schools or anything like that. But there are more title schools being closed than we do have title students. And I understand that those schools are in our declining enrollment areas, but is there anyone who can speak? I know that this was taken into consideration, and is there anyone who can speak to how this was considered and deliberated with our Title I kids?
Dr. Jaros?
Yes, as I did say, it was, the ultimate goal was looking at enrollment trends and how do we balance enrollment in different schools. And unfortunately, the target areas and some of those are title areas. There was a lot of conversation about the impact that would have and the supports that can be put into place. And so as I referenced as one example, if you were strictly just combined 2 schools, we would have a title school and a title community of, close to 900 students. And that would have just been not a fair situation to put anybody in. So there was consideration in terms of the rebounding, in terms of where they would go, what kind of supports would follow, excuse me, and making sure that those students are going to be taken care of in their new setting.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I actually do have one more question. I'm so sorry. We have some big charter schools in our district. Are those closer to some of the schools that are being closed?
Yes. I mean, as a taxpayer in the district, I would never have built a school in an area that has high performing or excelling schools when there is seating capacity. But that's what has been created in this state through the push of choice over a couple decades plus. There hasn't been any new charters over the last couple of years or seating capacities that haven't changed that we're aware of. But to answer your question, there are charter schools here in our district. I think we have actually 13 of them and another several within a mile of the borders.
Thank you, Dr. Bales. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Mrs. Christensen?
Yes, first of all, I'd just like to make some comments, and then I do have some additional questions. I want to thank all the community members that were brave enough to come. And I know it's not easy to speak in front of large crowds, but we hear you and we thank you for coming and pouring out your hearts. Also, the committee members, you guys worked really hard on putting all this information together. So I do appreciate that. I think my biggest concerns are just in more of processes and how things were handled. I did make some comments in our study session. One point I would like to make is we had a discussion tonight on the Northeast region. That's a region where I live, so that includes Grayhawk, Pinnacle Peak Prep, Desert Trails. And to me, it's interesting that we're not looking at closures in that area because when I became a board member prior to that, I had to run for election and I knocked over 2,000 doors, and that was part of the big community that I knocked. And I listened to all people. I listened to, it didn't matter their political backgrounds or who, community members and parents. That is a very affluent area, and those communities are all about choice. Those communities can't afford to drive 45 minutes to send their child to a private school, public charter. So I would argue that we would consider keeping our communities that maybe don't have that type of those types of options to maybe reconsider keeping our lower socioeconomic communities together and reconsidering just looking at other options. I know when, just as a parent, I would roll up in my F-150 dropping my kid off, and some people were rolling up in Rolls Royces, just saying, there's some affluent athletes and things like that. They're all about, they go to these schools because they love it. They love the communities. They're all about choice. But those communities do have the ability to have those options that some of the other communities don't. And I just want to say that there are no good solutions here. We cannot continue on this path. We are a declining enrollment district. We have some very difficult choices to make. So no good solutions, only trade-offs. And my heart goes out to everybody. This is very difficult. I would just like for the district to continue to be transparent, minimize the pain as much as possible. And I think my biggest concern, I have been researching, and I do have calls into the Attorney General's office and the county Attorney General as well. And one of the community members that spoke mentioned open meeting law. I would like going forward to see us be transparent, have these meetings open, and if it means going back to starting to not start over, they've done the
whatever I vote on, it's not going to be from a heartless bean counter. That's all I want to say.
Mrs. Greenberg?
Okay, we're going to take just a quick pause while we work on technical issues with our live feed. So please bear with us. Testing.
I believe that that's.
Testing 1, 2, 3.